Our rolling meatball of doom has gotten a new augment, and with it he has become even more dangerous in Steel Path, being able to have scaling damage and nuking entire rooms without any real issue. In today's video we have everything about Grendel, everything you want to know, and an amazing build for you guys, so let's quickly hop into that. Grendel as a Warframe has always been a good Warframe, well, not from the beginning, but when he got a rework. When he got a rework, he became much better, he is usable now, and with this augment, as I mentioned earlier, he is even better. And with this build, you're gonna be, well, having a lot of fun in Steel Path, rolling around as a meatball, just killing and gassing enemies. Now, let's start off with the passive and abilities, and we'll move on to the build. Passive is that for each enemy that he feasts on, that's his first ability, we'll talk about it, that go into his belly, he will gain up to 250 armor, and gaining a maximum of 1250 armor at 5 enemies cap. That is pretty good. That will give you an incredibly good bonus. This is additive to your already existing armor, but other than that, it is an incredibly good survivability boost. You can actually see it in your bottom right hand corner above your weapon and everything. So let's talk about the first ability, Feast. You swallow up to 5 enemies and you deal toxin damage to them while they're in your stomach. These enemies will be used to cast your other abilities alongside using energy. None of those two should be a worry because you can feast on enemies pretty much all the time as long as there is enemies that are alive to suck up, which might be an issue, but we'll get to that. We're gonna move on to the second ability. By the way, you can actually regurgitate the enemies outside, but I don't know why you would do that. But moving on to Nourish, and it's not subsumed this time, meaning you get an incredibly good heal on cast, meaning that if you're in a really sticky pickle, Nourish can save you a lot of the time. It gives you viral damage and gives you a viral damage boost, and also a pulsate when you take damage to your health, and it also increases the energy pickup, so this will give you a lot of energy, well, alongside the build. An incredibly good ability, and no wonder you put it on every single Warframe. The third ability is Polverize. Polverize turns you into the meatball of doom, dealing toxin and impact damage on, well, basically impacting everything, and you also armor strip enemies, knock them around. This ability is incredibly fun for me. I love using it 90% of the time. The 10 times I don't is when I come across Eximus units, because Eximus units have overguard and you can't push them around like you can normal units, so I exit out my ball and then pew pew pew, shoot them with your weapon of choice, we'll talk about that a little bit later, and then you go back into your meatball form. Regurgitate. Now this ability takes one enemy from your belly, shoots him out, dealing toxin damage and armor stripping enemies. Now the damage is calculated by your ability strength and the current enemy health, meaning the higher enemy health you have, the higher your damage is gonna be. What makes this ability, that is already amazing, even better is that we have Gastro. This is the new Augment mod added into Warframe. Regurgitated enemies bounce up to 3 times, creating gas clouds that last up to 8 seconds, inflicting nearby enemies with gas. You can shoot out a lot of enemies in a rapid succession, especially if you suck up a lot of enemies with your first ability. You can do a lot of damage, considering this damage does scale with your Regurgitate ability. So as I said, the higher the enemy health, the higher your damage is gonna be, and also with your toxin clouds. Keeping in mind that you still armor strip enemies with this ability, and you reach much further. There is a damage fall off, but it is minuscule in most situations. I guess you can pretty much see in the gameplay in the background. What you guys also want to see is the build that we use. We have Growing Power in the Aura slot, we have Stretch, Adaptation, Overextended, Umbral Fiber, Intensify, and Vitality. We also have Gastro, Blind Rage, and then for the Arcanes we have Arcane Mode Augmented. We get 60% power strength here, it's very good at maximum, and then we have Arcane Battery, we gain 0.3 maximum energy per armor point up to 1000 energy. This is going to be incredibly good. This is going to help us out a lot and keep our energy stacked up because we're going to use a lot of abilities. In the Exile slot, I would definitely recommend you put either Cunning Drift for more range, or you can use Catapult and you can launch yourself with your middle mouse button inside of your ball form, which is actually quite fun, and this can be quite good at traversing terrain, especially in Netracell missions, which can take a long while to traverse. This is a very helpful augment mod to have if you really want to use it. What also is going to help is the Archon Shards of choice. So we have one red one giving us 10% power strength, and then 2 ones giving us a total of 30% increase in our duration. We have a purple one giving us health pickups, will give us extra energy, 30%, and then vice versa. And then we have one blue one giving us 225 armor, in turn giving us even more energy. This is going to be sort of a safety net when we don't have enough enemies in our belly, because we can come across those situations. This is going to be very good having that increased armor, so we have increased base energy. Madurai, focus goal of choice. We have power transfer, 4 extra casting speed, and we have strength, which is going to increase our power strength. This is not necessary, but there you go, just so you know, because I always mention it. The weapons of choice are pretty much up to you. I use the Torrid Incarnate. This is the build, and the evolutions will run in just a second. Honestly, you're gonna be pretty much in your ball form 99% of the time, so it doesn't really matter what weapon you have. But when you do come across that situation when you're gonna have to not use your abilities or can't even use them, a good weapon's gonna be good. That's why I use the Torrid. My melee weapon is the Harmony. This is the build that I use. These are basically the 2 weapons that I use, and you can use anything that is pretty much strong and can take on an acolyte. There's plenty of videos you can check out on YouTube, top 10s and everything that you can look at and find out what weapon suits you. I even have some, so you can check them out on my channel. We do have the companions as well, because we have a diverse crew. I actually use the Hound most of the time to prime my enemies, because it applies status effects like a madman with this build, and of course the AK-10 as its weapon. This Hound is incredibly good. I just love it because sometimes it can nuke enemies on its own. You can technically use a Kubro or a Kavat with claws that will allow you to have the assassin posture to take down Eximus units to make it much easier for you, but honestly I realize the higher you go inside a steel path, the higher your damage is gonna be, because of the health of the enemies, and Regurgitate, everything that I explained, will allow you to almost kill Eximus units without having that big of an issue. Also, what's gonna help out is that Hound is gonna prime those enemies with viral and also other elements, making them more susceptible and taking more damage. We also have Nautilus. Nautilus is gonna be pretty good for crowd controlling. I love using Nautilus because it just groups them up. He is more useful when you don't use Polverize. That is my honest recommendation. And then the last one, Death Cube. This is if you're missing a little bit more energy, because even with my build, I run out of energy sometimes when I get too excited, when I use my 4th ability a little bit too much. But Death Cube can definitely help out with Energy Generator. That is all of the builds, everything that you need to know. Talk about how you play this build. First of all, suck up some enemies, because for Nourish, you're going to need 1 enemy inside of your belly to actually use it. Swallow up a couple of enemies, activate Nourish, and then use your weapon of choice, get a couple of kills, get a little bit of energy, and then turn yourself into a ball and spit out enemies. Suck up more enemies, keep Nourish active, use your 3rd ability, be inside of your 3rd ability, catapult yourself if you possibly can, and regurgitate even more enemies. The gameplay is plain and simple. You gas them, everything dies around you. This is what makes Grendel incredibly good, because you can control literal rooms with these gas clouds, and if you're efficient enough, and if you know how to use your abilities sparingly and actually smartly, I guess, you're gonna be having a lot of fun and just rolling around the rooms, killing everything. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is my Grendel reworked video, and if you did, leave a comment, like, and everything. I love you guys. Thank you so much for the subscribers. 20k by the end of the year, maybe? Let's hope. Let's see. This has been your lovely host, The Weasel. I'll see you guys on the next one.